Welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches making the big time where they're at. I am your host, Gage Rozier. Today's episode is sponsored by TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr provides strength conditioning software to athletics programs around the country. Whether you write your own programs or want access to over 100 templates, TeamBuildr can make your program more efficient, more accountable, and smarter when it comes to measuring your team's effort in the weight room. Visit their website and start a 14-day free trial at teambuildr.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hey guys, this week I'm really excited to have on Coach Matt Nein, the coordinator of sports performance at Salisbury University. Coach oversees training programs for over 21 varsity teams there and a staff of 3 graduate assistants and some interns. He also oversees the fitness center, so he has a lot on his plate there at Salisbury, but he's been there for 15 years and is doing an amazing job. He was the 2018 NSCA College Strength Conditioning Coach of the Year. So he does a lot of presentations as well. I mean, he's doing a lot of great things for the field, and it was really an honor for me to be able to talk to him and bring him to you guys. In this episode, we talk a lot about the culture of his program, kind of what their mission statement is, some of their core values that they try to establish in their athletes. You know, we talk about how he develops leaders, team camaraderie, how he's making the big time where he's at, of course, what's his training philosophy, and he gives some great resources as well. Coach is a beast, man. This is a great episode. I encourage you to reach out to him. All the stuff's in the show notes. And again, if you're liking the show, please share it with a fellow coach you think might get something out of it. So without further ado, here's Coach Matt Nein. All right, Coach Matt Nein, I really appreciate you coming on with us on the Big Time Strength Podcast. Why don't you get us going by just sharing a little bit of your background through strength conditioning and where you're at right now?
Great. Well, first off, let me just thank you for allowing me to come on here and talk with you guys. I think this is a fantastic podcast and a great opportunity. So I've been here. I'm at Salisbury University. I'm in my 15th year here. So kind of starting back, so really fell in love with strength and conditioning as an athlete. I really wasn't that good, but the aspects of strength and conditioning really helped me out and gave me guidance, and especially really helped out as an athlete playing on the field. And so that's where I kind of really fell in love with everything related to strength and conditioning. And had the opportunities early on in my career to work with some great strength coaches. Tim Bishop out of the Baltimore Orioles. I was able to do my first internship with him and learn a tremendous amount there as I was working on my master's degree. Then was able to land a job with the Toronto Blue Jays coming out once I graduated from Salisbury University here with a master's in Applied Health Physiology. Worked with them for a season, and Chris Joyner, he's now the head strength coach for baseball at Auburn. A fantastic strength coach, learned a tremendous amount from him, and really saw the passion that he had and the love that he had for his players and everything, and learned a lot from those guys there. And coming out of there, I was 24 years old as a head strength coach here at Salisbury Division III school. We've got 21 teams that we train. It's a little deceiving, I would say, where some of our teams are indoor track, outdoor track, where that constitutes 4 or 5 teams alone. So overall, we've got about, I think, 12 to 13 true training groups, we would say. I've got 3 graduate assistants that work with me. And I also oversee all the training aspects for all of our teams, and I manage the rec center, which is on opposite sides of campus. So it makes it a little bit of challenge through the day to get back and forth. But it's fun. It's what keeps, I guess, every day different and every day exciting. I had the opportunity last year. I was named the 2018 NSCA College Strength Coach of the Year, which to me is just an amazing honor to be able to be in some of the class of those, the groups that are out there, to be across all divisions, and to be, thought of in that capacity is just an amazing honor. It's given me fantastic opportunities. I get to head out to Australia here in November to present to the Australian Strength Conditioning Association, and in December to Puerto Rico. So it's been an awesome past year here since being awarded this back in January. So that's pretty much, I guess, the short gist of everything that we've done here. So
Well, what a great honor and congrats. And I know very well deserved, coach. So I hope you enjoy all your trips and stuff that goes along with that. And I
Yeah.
think it's really cool as well that you've been there 15 years. And it seems like, I'm a very young coach in this profession right now. I'm, 26 going on 27 pretty soon, but doesn't seem like the norm is to stick out at a place for that long. And I think that's a really cool thing you've done. And I'm sure you've learned a lot since you've been there and things have
hmm
changed. So why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what your program's mission statement is, maybe some of those core values that you try to preach with your athletes?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, from the beginning, I had an opportunity about 3 years into when I started here to take a minor league coordinator job back with Toronto. And again, probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my life. And in that point right then and there, it was that kind of like, hedge moment, that moment where, things are right in front of you and you need to make those decisions. And I guess it's just wide open. And at that point it was, just like with this podcast we're talking about where you make the big time where you are. I could have worked in professional baseball and things like that, but I had a great thing that I loved here. And so that was kind of the very, very, encompassing aspect related to our program is no matter where you are, no matter what you do, you've got to make everything there the best it possibly can. Because nobody wants to be around somebody who is, negative, doesn't like what they do. That gets you nowhere. So that had to be number one thing in our program is you've got to make this place big time. Whatever it is that you think big time is, let's go. And let's see how far we can make our program. So early on, some of our, I would say, overall outcomes is we want to have one of the premier programs, Division III programs in the country. That's our, if somebody has a question, we want them to come to us. And that's always going to be our goal or our outcome that we're looking for. So that kind of is the, big broad picture of things. When we get down into our vision, why we do what we do every day, I think the three biggest words that we have, ours is, spelled out a little bit differently. I'll talk about that in a second, but the three biggest words that are related to it are influencing, impacting, and inspiring. Every single day when we wake up, right from the get-go, I talk about this with my staff all the time. We can't be snoozers. We can't hit snooze, right? Because we're delaying greatness for the day. So you got to be able to, pop up. Hey, you get to influence somebody today. You get to impact their life today, and you get to inspire somebody today. Right? Why would you not want to get up and get after that and do as much and as many of, individuals as you can? Whether it's one or 30 in a team, it doesn't matter. Because we have that opportunity to create or help them reach their successes, whatever they may be for each individual. All right, so those are the kind of three words that sum up kind of our overall vision, why we do what we do. If we define it even more, ours is to inspire athletes to become passionate about their health, to enhance their current athletic pursuits, but also develop a lifelong commitment to fitness. Again, it's not about just here, we've got to figure out it's bigger than that, in terms of the fitness aspects we're doing. A lot of our athletes are going to be future parents, future coaches. We want to make sure that what we're teaching them here in any capacity, whether it's the specific X's and O's of lifting, to how to be a good coach, to how to interact with your players, to how to communicate with your players, is a lesson that they can take wherever they go. They may not know the direct lesson in the moment. Sometimes they will, but hopefully even later in life, say, man, what made him great is what we want to say is, man, he was able to connect. He was able to communicate. He was able to create a relationship. So, man, we'll take that and run. It doesn't matter if you're in the business sense and you don't have no kid and you have no kids. Take that with the team that you supervise and run with it. So it's got to be bigger than just the lifting and X's and O's. And I think as soon as that happens, you start to see greater culture development and growth and all those types of things. And then we break it down on an individual day into our mission. So our mission out of that is to focus on developing relationships, stimulate a positive training environment, and educate the athletes on why and how everything that they're doing pertains to their sport or their activity or whatever it is that we're training for. So that's a specific mission of what we want to do every single day. So we use the vision as the grand. Mission is how do we attack it every day. And then we also do some for our coaching side of things, because we have interns, we have volunteers that come in. So we have a vision related to what they do, and we also have a mission for them, where we're trying to encourage a growth mindset and actively engage them in learning opportunities. So we've taken a little bit further than just our athletes. Part of my philosophy is related to our coaches. You know, where we're creating a program, established a program, and that's good. But if I'm going to bring in better coaches, people need to know Salisbury University as a strength and conditioning or sports performance, realm. So we've got to get out. I've got to get out and present more, be more visible in what we do, things along that line, to help bring in better coaches. I bring in better coaches, our athletes get better coaching. So no matter what, it still impacts them in some capacity. So the better we can develop our coaches, the better coaching our athletes will get. So I've got to make sure that that's happening too. So it's multifold. You can't just work one aspect. It's got to be bigger than that. For us, our values, what we look for in the athletes as they come into, when they come into our facility, as well as the expectations that I'll hold for our coaching staff. And the first one is a great attitude. And I think the way that we have them, it's in a specific order, because without the one, the next one's not going to happen either. All right, so the first one's a great attitude. The second one's a united enthusiasm. So from a coaching standpoint, it might be me and just one intern, but together we've got to bring some sort of united enthusiasm, right? So it's individual based, but together it's united. So they have to bring it and I have to bring it. But it's still, me as the individual brings the enthusiasm. What that creates then is a lavish energy. So where we start to see spillover, so now it's the relationship aspect spilling over into the athletes, right? The mindset I have, towards a positive attitude, the enthusiasm I bring starts to create energy within the room. And we create an experience. That's our goal. That was one of our overall daily missions, is to create a dynamic experience. And so we've got to help get that, and it all starts from us. And the last one is a lasting effort. You can't just give an effort in the warm-up and then stop from there as a coach. Right? You've got to be able to bring it the whole entire time. If you're not feeling so great, it doesn't matter. That hour is theirs. You've got to get after it with them. And again, we ask the same thing from our athletes. When they walk in the door, their attitude's got to be right. They've got to bring an enthusiasm. They've got to create room energy. And when it's down, we got to figure out how do we recreate that. And I think some of the leadership opportunities come about in that aspect. It's going to create an effort. If the athletes don't want to be there, don't want to work, they're not going to get the outcomes that we're looking for, because they're not going to put in the effort. And we think, it's my belief that all four of those will equal success. And that's when we've had a successful day. So.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's so much good stuff there. I really love the influence, impact, and inspire. I saw that on your email signature. I was going to ask you about that, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
So you talked a lot about your staff there and kind of the expectations you have for them. How do you manage them? How are you developing them and kind of evaluate that staff?
Okay, so I think we might do it a little bit different, and I think a lot of it has to do with, because I'm also managing the rec center. So I look at them as full out assistant coaches. Now they're, recent college graduates. So they're 21 to 22 to 23 years old. Most of them, we've had some older, but generally that's about the age. So they're 1 year removed from the senior class that's in there. And they get a lot of responsibility. I think too often we're hesitant to give that responsibility. Now, the way I look at it is if I'm not willing to give the responsibility, then I hired the wrong coach. I didn't do a good job of whether it's a vetting process or, you name it. And hopefully, like, I'm hiring quality coaches that they can hop in and run. If it's not, it's my fault. Nobody else's, not their fault. They weren't prepared or ready to do that. So I got to be able to let that go. Initially, 12 years ago, it was different, meaning that I felt that I needed to be involved in everything. And you quickly realize that you can't be. And then you start realizing, I've hired great people. Just let them run. Let's let them go. And so we let them go. And what that means for us is we have a strategic planning process. And in that strategic plan, each of our strength coaches that work in the group have a different responsibility. And so one of them right now is running the intern program. Another one is running the facility maintenance. So that would be any facility and equipment maintenance. And another one is in charge of our personnel. I am in charge of all of scheduling. And what happens is we rotate that every semester. So during their time here, they'll get to do 1-2 times. Other than that, they'll have every experience. And I think one of the benefits of that is they come out of here, they're ready to go, as in terms of a job. They've already done an internship for program management for a semester. They understand what it takes to, maintain a facility as well as equipment. They understand how to manage personnel, and they understand aspects related to scheduling and things along that line. I think that's the only way we're going to operate well. Again, we want to be the premier program in the country. I've got to let it go, and they're going to be able to take, their niche and put their niche into it and make it better than when they were here or when they took over. That's their goal. And that's what we put, the standard that we put in, make it better, right? Figure out a way to make it better than it was when you took over. And then these guys, they do a fantastic job. The crew that we have in right now is, they're always changing. They're always bringing new ideas and things like that to our intern curriculum. Instead of doing the same boring, I don't necessarily say boring, but same old thing, they're figuring out ways that they can manage, and they're excited. The next guy who's taking it over next semester, he's already in the planning processes of what can he do differently to create something better. Like, that's what we want. That's what we want to create. So that's kind of their development and part of their development. Now I work with them on a regular basis to help with that. We also do some development work, and a lot more on the coaching side. I involve them in everything related to budgeting and management of money and equipment and that aspect. So they're always involved in that. The planning for the next year, they're always involved in that. So a lot of it's more hands-on. To me, I think having 4 brains sitting at the table, they have great ideas that they can bring that actually might need maybe a little tweak, or it might be right on the money and perfect. But I think my job as the leader is to take their their suggestions and ideas and figuring out what can we do to make them happen. Even if we have to rework 3 or 4 times to figure out how to make it happen, we're going to make an effort at least. At the end of it may not, but I think their suggestions are valued and can impact, because they see things differently than I do. So we're going to take it and run and see what we can do to create that. So a lot of everything in terms of that is hands-on and done in the moment. In terms of evaluations, I'm not necessarily a big fan of waiting. Where people do a midterm, halfway through the semester and at the end of the semester. I mean, we're gonna do it right then and there. So I can't see every session. So why would I go watch a session and then not say much anything to them or give them a formal evaluation right then and there? We'll session's over, we'll talk about it. Whatever it is, if it whatever's great, whatever may need slight tweak or adjustments. I mean, I'll give you an example. Just this semester, one of our coaches, he's got fantastic ideas, and one of the areas where continued improvement needs is more so the overall management. And when we're in the room, you're in there by yourself, or you've got one intern, and we're early in the semester, so the interns don't have a tremendous amount of experience yet, and just trying to do too much, and so we're looking at the plan and just talking about the plan of what he's going to do, and we're like, man, do you think that might be a little much? Do you think you can manage it? Do you think you can handle it? And he steps back and like, all right, well, let's give it a whirl. Let's try it. I'm not. It's not going to hurt the athlete. It's not going to hurt you as a coach. You've got to be on top of it. And we come afterwards and say, okay, what do you think? So we reflect back on it. How'd it go? It's like, well, it was tough. It was very, very tough. And well, did we need to do that in that capacity? Maybe not. Maybe we could have. Well, let's think about this. What other ways could we have still gotten across? Because you have freshman athlete in who are at one level, maybe have never lifted before, to seniors at a completely different level.
Right.
And you're trying to run 3 or 4 programs within a, one workout session. Is there other ways we could create the same concept, but maybe make it more manageable? So not that it didn't work, but it was extremely challenging, and he felt, not say overwhelmed, but there was just a lot going on and didn't feel as comfortable in the way the session went. Well, let's try something new. Figure it out for the next go round. Tried it, liked it better, and it was just like a minor little thing. It wasn't even anything spectacular, mind blowing. It's minimal. Bam, it works great. So let's give it right then and there, because there's everything's lost if we wait. So we don't really give like the formal eval or anything along that line. And I think from a reference standpoint, they do a fantastic job for me. These are little things that I can speak on about areas of which they improved and growth and things like that. So that's kind of how we do it here.
No, I love it. I think there's a lot of great stuff in there. I have one follow-up on there. So, with me being a young strength coach, kind of in charge of a department, when is that, not breaking point, but when is that line where you decided, all right, I got to start giving away stuff? Do you do it super early, or do you feel like you have to have, things kind of rolling the way you want it to roll before you hand off that responsibility? Because that's something I do struggle with a little bit.
I think what ended up being is, in terms of me, was the realization that if we want to reach where we want to reach, I can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
And Rob Bell's got a book I'm actually reading right now. Is we can't get there alone. He's a sports psychologist. He's actually spoke at the national NSCA national conference, and one of the big things he talks about is we can't do it alone. There's no way that you're going to reach the potential in which you need to reach, or which you think you can reach, or where you want to reach, without other people. And you take that in mind, and now from where we broke our program down into 3 different areas. Right when I started, there was only 2 teams training. That was it. It was baseball and football. That was it.
Gotcha.
The other teams weren't really doing anything. They had programs, but every program was written the same. It was nothing, didn't exist. And what you would see is you'd have a lot of people doing it the first 2 weeks. By week 3 or 4, it was like a quarter of the team. By like week 5, nobody was even doing anything anymore. We had all the logs from the year before that to see that, and it's like, wow, we got to create stuff. So we had to establish a program first. So yeah, I did a lot more. I worked a lot longer hours, and it was, if I want to establish a program and something that we want to be able to have greater impact on our student athletes, I might have to do that at that time. I might have to be more involved at that time because of my standards. As we grew, we were able to grow staff, because all of a sudden by year 3, all 21 teams were running, and I couldn't do it alone.
Right. And
so we had a GA came in, Mike Zordis, and again helped us continue to grow the program and be in that capacity. And then all of a sudden we gained another, and then we had 3 within 5 years of starting the program. We were on pace for where we wanted to be. We had 3 graduate assistants and myself, and now it was we felt that we've established our program. Our athletes wanted to be there. They never felt that they had to be there into the lifting sessions, and we had the structure, I guess the infrastructure to be able to handle that. Everything was now that we've got to develop the program in which we have. Right? And that meant from the coach's standpoint, predominantly, is really create a program that people want to be part of.
Yeah.
And go from there, and create that and develop that. And once we have that, then the third part was, now we've got to get out. We want other people to know, right? So we can bring in better, whatever that better may be, whether it's better coaches or just other opportunities or better opportunities for our coaches to leave, you name it, we've got to create better. So at that point we've got to be known, we've got to get out, I've got to present more, I've got to create that environment for our program as a whole, for the athletes and for our coaches to be in the best situations that they can be in.
Yeah. No, that's
and so
great. Yeah.
Where did it, I guess real quick here, where did it happen? Somewhere along that line, probably once the program was established. So in that second phase of work it was time to let go.
Yeah.
And time to trust the staff in which you hired.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
now
I'm good to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so kind of one of the main, focuses of this podcast obviously is in making the big time where you're at. So, what are maybe some unique ways that you're doing that?
I think one is just getting out and presenting. And I think one of the things that I do is, you always go to these conferences and so forth, and they're fantastic, but a lot of what's there or what they're talking about is X's and O's. And don't get me wrong, X's and O's are important from a coaching standpoint, but a lot of it has to do with relationships and experiences and commitment and buy-in and stuff like that. So we went out and said, you know what, like, I think it'd be easier for us to get in and start talking on these topics than it may be on some of the other ones. And it's stuff that we do every day, that we purposefully do every day as it relates to commitment and buy-in and mental toughness. And, so let's start doing that to really just get out onto on a national scene. That was, that's one aspect there. As it relates to more of like a global standpoint, but looking at like every single day, I think really to me, the biggest one is the experiences that the athletes get. You say, oh, well, they don't, you don't get this, you don't have that. Yeah, we don't have, our facility, our equipment is 16 years old. Our facility is, like 2,000 square feet. We've got a team of 40 guys in there, but there's other things that we can do. We can make fantastic connections, fantastic relationships that, people want to be part of, and, we take the time. I was sitting in the office yesterday with a basketball recruit. Do I have to do that? Do I have time to do that? You know what? We're going to make time to make that happen, because that's what's most important right now. Getting in there and saying, hey, you know what? Here's what our program is all about. Obviously our coaching staff believes that you can play here. Let's let you know what we do. And some of our stuff is detailed. We're sitting and talking with you about, how many hours of sleep are you getting per night? Being detailed. Just yesterday, I sat with our football staff. We were talking about RPEs, and taking their rate of perceived exertion every single, lift day that they're in there, in terms of how they're feeling, and comparing that with the research that's out and showing our coaching staff, that right now we're in a negative trend and we're trending to a spot where we don't want to continue to go. What can we do today at practice to help back that down? And we're also informing, part of that whole vision was to let them know why we're doing what we're doing. And we're letting the athletes know, why are we doing these things? And they love it, and they're truthful because of the relationship we've hopefully created, that they don't feel like they need to lie, because that, and one of the big things I always say, it doesn't matter to me. Like tomorrow, I'm still coming to my job, whether you lie about your RPE today or not, it doesn't matter in that grand scheme of things. But to be the best you each day, we got to be truthful, and I'm going to make sure that we put you in the best position possible. So I think the love that they see that I have for them, these are the simple things that make the big time where you're at, is investing everything, what you can. I mean, you still got to have the outside, your personal life and things on that line, but can you bring them in? I'll bring my daughters in sometimes so they get to see that I'm a human too. It's not like this crazy guy in here at 6 a.m. and he's just bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and the athlete or struggling or whatever it may be. It's like, no, I'm human too. Like, I've got to take my kids today because for whatever reason, that's just life's away at a conference. Well, they're going to come in today and they're going to be coaches, and we'll give them a whistle, and just so that they, they're not going to blow it, but they're just going to look that, and they're going to have a T-shirt on, and they're going to interact with the players. Well, that's what we got to create. If they can interact back. I'm not going to put anybody in a situation where they're going to get injured or hurt or anything like that. Whether it's my kids or our athletes here, but just creating that, like, just being, I don't know if we call it like normal, but just be human. You don't have to be nuts, crazy, wild type of person. Like, you just interact and communicate, and just start to see the trust and the love and the passion that they start developing towards what you do or what they do to be the best that they can be. And that, to me, that's what making it big time is, because you would do the same thing no matter where you are. And I think one of the biggest things to be able to get out of that is to understand is when your athletes believe that they want to be there. I think, I said it before, is never do they want, I want them to believe that they have to be there. Again, at the Division III level, everything out of season is voluntary anyway. But if they believe that they want to be there because that's how it relates to being the most successful that they can become, then we're creating that atmosphere, for them to be great. And to me, that's how I would define it in terms of making the big time where you're at.
Yeah, just investing in those athletes. And I love the you bringing in your kids thing. And I've got, my wife and I he's about 16 months old now, but bringing him in to the weight room is probably one of my favorite things ever. Just
oh yeah, I mean, the teams love it.
Yeah, the kids love it, and I love to see the athletes love up on him too. And just creating that family atmosphere. I think that's a great point.
Well, that's what you're trying to create, right? I mean, you want to create that between you and them, that their family. I mean, that's it. When you think back and you step back from it, it's almost what it is. I mean, you have so much influence, in their daily life. Their mom, dad, they're not here. They're not around. So they're going to come and ask you for advice or, help or just questions in general. So you're almost kind of in that role, and for them to really interact with your kid, and that's when you've created that family atmosphere. And I think that's where great cultures stem from, right? Because we always talk about it as being like a family, and so we've got to create that. So we've got to be able to show that family is important.
Yeah, that's just a great perspective. I love it. How about, what are some ways that you help build team camaraderie and develop leaders? Because we're obviously in a kind of that role as well, where that's just kind of naturally a great place where that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, one of the biggest things in terms of leadership is, a lot of people, they have a rough idea of what to do as a leader. And we say that everybody's a leader. Everyone has the opportunity to be a leader. I think for on that, the biggest thing that I see is the inability to find a leadership opportunity. So that's our job. That's what we talk with our staff is, hey, we've got more experience than they do. We're going to try to find the leadership opportunities and help them through them. So it could be, for example, when room energy is down, like, I can't be the guy who brings it all the time. Like, they've got to be able to really fire each other up, because I'm not going to be there all the time. And, out on the field and so, but I could easily walk up to somebody and say, hey man, it's a little down right now. Energy. What do you think you can do to make this room grow right now? And I'll just walk away, and then we'll go back. We'll analyze. Start looking at technique. Doesn't do anything. Walk back up to him and say, okay, what'd you come up with? I don't really know. Okay, well, let's talk about it. What can we do here? And these are like during their rest break for 30 seconds, to a minute, and then they're out again. And maybe it ended up being a slow clap in the middle of the room to get everybody else involved. Say, hey, we got to turn it up a notch, fellas, or ladies, we've starting to get a little low in here. let's bring it back and let's get after it. Like, bam, everybody's fired up and we've got good energy back in the room, because that means good energy is going to equate to good effort, and we're rolling. So I think being able to find the opportunity is one of the most critical. In terms of looking at, like culture and, that atmosphere, standards, I think are extremely important. I think too often we forget about those, or we not say forget about them, we just don't do them, is we don't have standards in place. What are the standards, the daily standards within the weight room? And it's not my standards, it's their standards as a team, so that each person can hold each other accountable to being great for that day. I think usually a lot of places that I've seen, or even us in the past, like, we never had them. And so if somebody wasn't working very hard, the other person wasn't willing to address it. And if they're not willing to address it, then we're saying that it's okay to be just mediocre today. But we've got to be able to create an environment in which it's okay to be able to say that. And by having standards, it now sets that as saying, hey, you've all agreed to saying that, hey, these are what we need to do every day to be the best we can today. So if I call you out for it, or somebody else calls you out for it, it's not a knock on you, but it's just a reminder to get back to where we need to go. I think of some of the other things we do, we high fives. Now, the value of body contact within a room is amazing. And it'll start off as being phony, where they'll let's make sure we high five each other type of deal. And I'll tell you now, it's, hey, let's get our touches in. Everybody make sure you're getting your touches. This is stuff that they're saying. Before it was like, hey, we got it. Me as a coach is reminding them. I don't have to do that anymore. And so, if you're going to walk from one side of the room to the other and you're going to pass two people, hey, one, acknowledge them, two, give them a high five, or any type of body contact. And so I guess trying to figure out, how can you influence that? How can you impact that? The same things that would go back to the vision. That's our job. That's part of the job to do every single day that we're in there. And I think that's one of the simple things that can be done to help, create that. You start creating that, you finish, and you work with the team values, team vision, team mission, and the team standards, and let them set them. The culture is now set. We call them championship ideals. That whole concept is our championship ideal. Everybody says they want to be great, right? I want to win a conference championship. I want to do this. All right, what are you going to do to get there? What are you going to do? And what's the specific standard? Not the goal. What's our standard? What's the minimum that we've got to do to be great today? Right? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that I'm with you on the high fives. We try to do, you tell them if you cross a teammate, you don't ignore them. You got to give them a high five. And it's definitely phony at the start, but they start to buy into it. I'm with you on the high five train. So
here's my question to you: Do you analyze it? Do you score it?
We don't. This
would be my challenge to you.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. We should. We don't score it and like give them an official score, but we do call them out on it all the time. So if I see a guy that will cross somebody without giving them a high five, I'll go sprint across a room and grab them, both of them, and bring them together and make them shake hands. We'll do stuff like that. But so we don't officially score them, which maybe we should.
So what we've done it in as part of our standards is, we talk about family as maybe a core value with one of the teams. Okay, well, what's our standard as it relates to family? Right. Well, we want, in the course of a lift session, we want 45 body contacts. Okay, if you think that's what needs to happen for this team to create a dynamic group, all right, let's do it. Well, we just have a clipboard, and I'll walk around with a clipboard and I'll just put a mark in a column every time I see a high five. Am I going to miss some? Yeah, but and I'm not sitting out here. No, I'm watching technique, but I may see a high five in the back, and that's great, and we'll mark it down. You just got to be cognizant of everything that's rolling around.
Yeah.
And so we score it. And then we give a percentage. So on Monday, on our the standards that we have on Monday, they'll get a report from me about the standard. So we might have breakfast, lunch, and dinner standards, sleep standards, body contact standards, and then some PR standards. We'll have some open sets and things like that. And we'll take a look at it. Their standard might have been 45. Well, today this week, they came in at 88%. Like, fellas, is this good enough? Or ladies, is this good enough? You said that the standard's got to be, we need 100, 45. Well, we only hit 88% of that in the week. We've got to do better. What can we do better this week? Right? It's right there in front of their face now. We analyze and put statistics to everything. I think we often forget about some of the simple things that can have statistics that might have more impact on their overall.
Hello, Coach, are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
You buzzed out for me a second. Sorry.
Sorry.
I lost you just for about 10 seconds there. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. You got me? You're good?
Yeah, I got you now. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
No, I was just thinking a follow-up to this one. So you're talking about your core values and giving standards off of them. So it kind of sounds like you do that kind of by a team-by-team basis, or do you have some standards across all teams? This is what we need to do. Or do you kind of let those teams establish those different standards for them?
I think for us, we have our program standard, but the standards that we're looking at are team driven because it's their team. It's not my team. So we let them create them, let them design them, and then go. And then they're going to change every year because hopefully there's a new standard, a new minimum, because last year's minimum, was met. And a good example of this would be, talk about nutrition, and everyone's like, oh, well, can you write, is there, some suggestions or recommendations that you could give? And we'll sit down and ask you, is like, do you just eat 3 normal meals a day? And they're like, well, I didn't eat breakfast today. And I'm like, so you're only getting 2 meals a day, or, I ate breakfast, but I didn't have lunch. I'm like, well, it's 4 o'clock now and we're getting ready to lift and you haven't eaten since 9 o'clock this morning. I'm like, so how can I talk about nutrition with you if you can't even eat three regular meals? You know what? Here's our standard. Eat 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
Right. Once you consistently eat 3 meals a day, now we can start talking about some better selection choices. And then we can start talking about increasing our, meal and start, getting better timing related to our meal selections and so forth.
Sure.
But if I don't have the basic habit of just eating on a normally scheduled basis, those other stuff is never going to happen.
Right.
It just won't. And so, it's like putting the cart before the horse. It just doesn't make sense. And so we got to almost backtrack, create better habits, and work from there. So we're letting them set their standard, and it's coming out of their core values. We let them set their vision. We let them set their mission. And, when we did it, was saying, hey, you know what, you guys have the ability to impact the team right now for the rest of the course of at least the time that I'm here, that this is going to be in place. Like this might be your legacy. You've created, right, your vision and your mission of how you're going to attack everything that you do in the off season. We base everything off of 5 pillars: lifting, running, playing the game, recovery, and mental conditioning. Those are the 5 things you need to work on to be the best player you can become.
Awesome. Well, that's a lot of solid stuff. Let's switch gears just a little bit before we kind of wrap up. Let's talk a little training. So what's your training philosophy with your athletes?
Man, well, let's keep it simple. Is lift heavy, things fast.
Yeah.
Right. Let's start right there. Sometimes we get way too complicated in what we do. It doesn't need to be as complicated as we may think it needs to be, or things along that line. I wouldn't say we have one standard philosophy outside of reducing risk of injury and enhancing performance. Those are the 2 major ones. And outside of that, in terms of methodologies we're selecting, it's really based off the athletes. It's based off of their testing and the analysis and their years of experience. And I mean, you've got teams running, some base linear stuff to, more concurrent based work. I don't see a lot of conjugate in the work that we have, but where some groups are running technical programs, to others are full boat in it, and it's all simultaneously and integrating together with different programs so that we're giving the athlete the most optimal program possible to be the best they can. And then sometimes the other thing is, I think that's the other big thing, is that's what we want to create. We want to give you the most optimal program possible to be the best you can, which sometimes means that it might not be the best program written on paper.
Right.
But in the moment, it is the most optimal program for what we're trying to accomplish. If I've got a team who's got, they don't find the value maybe in strength and conditioning or whatever it may be, I might have to, match their why. Why do they come every day? If their why of why they come or why they want to be a player has to do with being around their friends or something along that line, we might need to create that scenario first, to create some sort of excitement and buzz to say, hey, this is a cool place to be, and then, oh yeah, we love this, this is fantastic. And then becomes, all right, now let me squeak some of the stuff I want in to there. And, it's more long-term than it is single year. I might be doing stuff now that won't impact our athlete until 2 years from now, and that's just the way it rolls.
Right.
Because if I don't do it now, it's not going to be there in 2 years from now. It's not going to just magically happen.
Yeah.
And a good example of that was, with one of our teams, we ran open sets, and every third set was an open set on their either, foundational lift, their number one or their number two lift. Sometimes it was both. We'd vert every week, and we do a 1 minute push-up test every week, just to have more data. And what we wanted to show was tiny gains. Now I already know what's going to happen is, they hadn't done anything all winter, most likely. And so we're going to see a lot of neurological growth anyway, right? Just starting off. So I'm using the tiny gains that I know are going to happen and show them what's happening. But again, should we be doing open sets on set 3, max effort open sets on set 3? Yeah, probably not. But I'll tell you, that team right now, this was 2 years ago, that team right now is asking, they want to get time in, when can we, do we have any extra time we can get in season, whether it is just to roll or stretch out or anything, they want to be in there. So that 2 years ago was to create maybe a group of leadership out of a freshman class that needed it, to now being a group of leaders that have influence on everybody else. And I'm telling you, this crew, these girls, they just freaking get after it in there. I mean, they are not afraid to challenge themselves. They are not afraid to work. It wasn't great. It wasn't the best programming. And I'd get ripped if anybody saw it, like, oh, what is this guy doing? But it's in the situation. That was best to get what I needed out of that group right now and where we're at right now to make, potential championship runs.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just kind of knowing your team and what they need, and it might not necessarily make sense from a science standpoint, but if it's what builds that foundation, that's a pretty important part to think about as well. How about?
And it's all based off of injury.
Yeah.
We're not going to put him in a spot to be injured.
Sure.
It's just in that that's got to be up in the forefront of our thought process too.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. How about some of the mental toughness stuff you're doing? How do you kind of incorporate that into some of your training sessions?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I don't think it can be done every day.
Sure.
And part of the reason is that they'll just tune out. That's not why they're there. They want to get whatever it is, the pump or the feel or whatever it is that they want out of that training session. Sometimes it's just sweat, or sometimes just want a good workout. And you got to be able to play that game. So we understand when when you can do it, how often are you doing it, those types of things. And to be honest, I mean, you could just periodize how you put it in every day, just like we do our programming. Right. Now, to me, that would be ideal, optimal. But I think one of the biggest things that we talk about is kind of like the awareness piece. And we use the event plus response equals outcome. And we have a poster. We have it in our room, so people see it right now. Right now, we're just introducing it again to our fall teams. And, right now it's just in the room. We've talked about it. We've backed off for a couple days. And what'll happen here next week is we're just going to draw a line on the whiteboard. And I want to see, what are your above the line responses and what are your below the line responses. During your rest break, we've got pens out on the board. You come out, what's an above the line response, right? So every day is an event. You're going to have events throughout, hundreds of events throughout the day. I didn't do well on a test. All right, you have the ability to either respond or react to that. React is negative, response is a positive. Right? And then we talk about our responses are above the line, our reactions are below the line, meaning things that we don't want to see. So we're making them aware every day of what the appropriate responses should be, right? There's a bad call. What's an above the line? What's a below the line response? So then taking it, we found this from they're called e-sheets or event sheets. And this was the Ohio State men's lacrosse coach did these with his, when he coached the U.S. national team. I think it was the under 19 team. And they had event sheets. And basically we started doing the event sheets where you've got the daily events down the left that are related to, let's say like a game day or practice day or just lift day, and what's a below the line response related to that event, and what's an above the line response, and the example I have that we talked about at the national convention, one of the examples on the events was the bus trip. The other day coming home from our field hockey, the bus broke down twice. I got in at 4 a.m. You either have the ability to respond or you can react negatively, but that will impact your outcome. Your choice. We make the choices every day. Nobody wants to be around somebody who's making, who's negative in what they do. Make the positive choices, figure them out. But it opens up the door when people are aware, and everybody's aware of what the negative responses are. Now I have the ability to say something to somebody else as an athlete. Say, hey, man, that's below the line.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, coach, yeah, you're right. That is. All right, let's go. Let's get back out. Let's get back into it. Yeah, you're right. Because we all do it. We just make sure everyone knows that. Everybody's going to have reactions. It's the way life is. But if we can reduce them and we can get back into positive responses, into an adequate mindset, then we can have a better outcome. I think that's the one big one. And the other is routines. Is figuring out creating routines. So when we do have those reactions, how do you get back into the right mindset? Just create them, figure it out, but because we have the ability now to let what above and below the line response is, now you know how to then you can figure out your routine to get back into the right mindset and positive self-talk and go from there. One of the cool things that we see now is, and sometimes I'll do it purposefully, where I'll give a below the line response in a weight room or something like that. And we started seeing this with our women's lacrosse team, and they were calling me out. Like, as soon as that happened, I was like, yes, we're in. Like, you know what I mean? Like we've made such an impact that they're willing to call me out on it now. Like,
nice.
That's when you've made some sort of impact and they understand the concept. And it wasn't something we were drilling. They would just say, I don't think I can do this. That's a below the line response. I'm like, coach, you're right. I'm like, yeah, I'm always right. And then just joking around with them like that. And all of a sudden, like, they're getting it, but you don't need to be, mean about it or anything like that. Just have fun with it, and all of a sudden they're going to see that, hey, you know what? That was below the line response. I can be better than that. Well, yeah, it's going to impact everything you do, the outcomes, just trust me. And they do.
Well, a couple really easy concepts that you're putting into place there, the awareness and routines. I think that's awesome, Coach. I'm going to take a lot from that and maybe even start, brainstorming some ideas where I can put that in place here at Williamsville College as well. I really appreciate your time. This has been awesome. I've got 3 pages of notes so far. So let's wrap it up. Just a few quick questions here to finish.
Cool.
All right. What is one of your favorite professional development resources, whether it's a book, article, whatever, strength conditioning wise?
All right, we'll give you there might be a couple here. So I think social media is one. There's a tremendous amount of great stuff on social media. From a book, I would say a lot on the sports psych side. We talked about Rob Bell, Jeff Jansen's got a ton of great stuff. Todd Dongwer, John Gordon, like any of them, just fantastic stuff on that end. And I think the last one would be getting out and meeting and talking with people. You know, I mean, maybe that's old school, but you can learn a tremendous amount when you just pick up the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your favorite office snack?
Favorite office snack? Oh man, whatever's really there.
Yeah.
Usually we're just rolling. I'm back and forth between offices, so there's generally nothing there. Right now in our office on the other side, one of our professors had, you know, his girlfriend was doing an event and had a bunch of leftover bars. So that's what's in the room right now.
There you go. That'll work.
So I'd say whatever's available.
Gotcha. All right, you got 15 minutes to train yourself. What are you doing?
Ooh. We're definitely probably going to do, I would say, some sort of French contrast.
Okay.
You can get roughly 4 exercises in. And I think because of the way it's formulated, we could heavy squat. We could do some sort of explosive, whether it's a clean or some sort of hip hinge explosion, dumbbell swing or anything along that line, to moving in. So you're getting a little bit of the heavy and you're getting the explosive.
Nice. I like it.
The other 2 exercises, we'll just open it up and let you select for the French contrast.
All right, last one. Small school coach who's killing it and deserves a shout out.
All right, to me, I got to stay true to Salisbury. Ed Smith at Lynchburg. Love that guy. I mean, he's doing a fantastic job out there at Lynchburg, and anybody reach out to him. He was one of my graduate assistants, and he's been doing a fantastic job. He's a young guy as well, and the opportunity to be ahead out there is I got to give a good shout out to him.
Awesome. I'll definitely maybe reach out to him and look him up as well. So,
cool.
All right, Coach, this has been great. I've got your email that I'll hook up to the show notes. Is there anything else contact-wise you prefer if people want to reach out to you?
No, I said email is probably the easiest. I mean, you can find me on social media as well, the Twitter, and you can throw those on there as well. I think I gave them to you.
Yep.
So to me, email is the fastest one that I'll be able to get back to you, anybody with. But don't hesitate to email me. Like I said, I'll get back as soon as I possibly can, and willing to help out anyone and anybody to help grow the field.
Yeah, that's great, Coach. I really appreciate it. Good luck the rest of this fall, and take care.
You too. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and best of luck to you guys as well.